Lights up bright, dope, Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State, where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. My name is KB, and with me is the old man. We are back and talking about the latest college football. We do have some Florida State news to go over. From this weekend, and including today, there has been some news on the coaching front, and new coaches supposedly being hired on the defensive end. The coach is leaving, so a lot of news, as we knew, would come out based on the outcome of the season, and that will continue to happen as the postseason goes on. So we'll talk about that and what we think of those changes. Obviously, with the college playoff selection show on Sunday, there is. Can we get the notification?
That's mine, right?
Yeah, but with that, there's obviously some controversy. Some people are saying it harkens back to when Florida State got snubbed. We'll discuss that. And
Alabama wins both. Alabama won two of those.
We'll agree or disagree on that. And we'll go. Let us know, anyone out there, if there's any other news or notes that you guys want to discuss. But we'll try to keep it tight and compact and go through what's relevant and what's
under
breaking.
2 hours.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Before we get into that, anything that you want to bring up or discuss?
No. I mean, besides what you just summarized.
Yeah.
Everything's going well. I mean, it's a little cool down here in Central Florida. Actually, for us, it's a little cool. It was kind of like a change of seasons down here today, 60s. But, if you live down here your entire life, that kind of hits you, not where you live, and where it's cold, much of the winter. But other than that, everything's good. Like you say, there's a lot of news across college football and across Florida State football. So I'm raring to go, ready to get into it, and hopefully our viewers out there, it will put your comments. We'll get them up. We'll talk about some of them, and we'll go from there. Sounds good, man.
Yep.
And I heard you got some really cool clips down the road in the show here. So people should stick around to see some of these very interesting clips you've dug up.
Yeah, I didn't dig them up. I just found them on the timeline.
Well, we'll give the appropriate credit, right?
But yeah, so what do you want? You want to go through the playoffs?
Playoffs.
Playoffs. So obviously we know who's in it and who's going to be.
Can you pull it up?
Can we?
I'm trying to kill
Jesus
that.
Christ, man!
I'm trying to kill it.
Yeah, well, you're not being successful in clicking it. Throw the phone out of the room. That'll fix the issue. So obviously we know what the playoffs are set at. Duke, we discussed it last week, and the ultimate doomsday scenario for the ACC would be Duke pulling off the upset, and then they ended up doing it. They get, they win the ACC, but they don't make it, so they get the ultimate slap in the face. UVA craps the bed. They don't win the championship, and they don't get in. So all that for nothing. And Miami, by the skin of their teeth, does get in at the 10th spot based on some of their bigger wins.
Great place to start
early in the season. But with that, and also Alabama skins in, even though they played not like trash at the end of the season, including getting blown out in the conference championship game.
And beaten twice by Georgia during this season.
Yep. And Florida State in this season.
And Florida State, who had a trash season.
So 3 losses for Alabama this season. They skin in and get in over Miami and at the 9 seed and over, a better seed than Tulane and stuff like that. But they get in over Notre Dame, especially, which is a talking point, as well as BYU, who had lost only 2 losses is to Texas Tech, once in the regular season and once in the conference championship game. So those are really the two teams that are really kind of making the biggest argument right now, as we're getting screwed, we're getting snubbed. This is we got to break apart of the college football committee. It is really BYU and Notre Dame. So that's all you've probably been hearing on your timeline. I think the team that has the most gripe, it has the most maybe. Well, let me position that to you first. Of the two teams that got left out, BYU and Notre Dame, which one of them do you think has the bigger case of feeling boxed out by the playoff committee, ESPN, and the playoff committee, ESPN, and the networks? Which one of those do you think got screwed the most?
I'm not sure either one got screwed.
Okay.
I'm not sure saying which one got screwed the most implies that they both kind of got screwed.
Which do you think got screwed if you believe one of them got screwed?
Here's what's wrong. Here's what I see is wrong. First of all, it's funny how Alabama both have been in controversial situations, the last couple of times around here. Florida State gets snubbed, they get in. This year, they get in because the Notre Dame Miami thing as well. And I think I used to say there's favoritism towards teams. Now, that controversy about favoritism for ESPN power teams, the ESPN runs, not runs, but they do have contracts with the ACC and the SEC.
Yep.
So, but 5 teams, I think, got in from the SEC.
Yep.
And Alabama was the last one to get in.
They've been beaten. These are the payouts they've gotten for by conferences record as well.
Yeah. And so, first of all, there's a lot to say that Alabama's been beaten twice by Georgia. Twice. Yep. And they got beat by a horrible Florida State team who wasn't so horrible in game 1. Okay. Yep. After that, it was a disaster.
Yep.
So the resume Alabama brings in, and if you noticed on the show, I thought the show was on like at 2:30 or 3. Usually it's on like 5 or 6 o'clock. There was something weird going on with the show on Sunday. I thought the time slot was weird. I don't think it had the hype that it usually has.
It's boring, but because look at the matchups. Alabama's playing Oklahoma, who they've already played in the regular season and lost to. Tulane's playing Ole Miss, who they've already played in the regular season.
Put that back up for a minute, would you?
What, the matchups?
Yeah, the matchups. Okay. But what I'm saying, KB, is it's just the hype. They tried to hype it, but it just wasn't working. Is JMU better than Notre Dame? Probably not. I mean, they probably not. And I hate to say that, especially if my oldest daughter is watching, because she went to JMU. It is a great school. It's in Central Virginia. Beautiful campus, beautiful stadium. And they have done a masterful job now of getting a D1 football team who's doing very well. And guess what? They've lately produced two coaches to go to bigger programs. One you may be familiar with, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. The guy who's currently at Indiana, okay? And then the current coach is leaving for UCLA, I believe.
Yeah.
So they are now a hotbed of producing coaches.
Yep.
So they are maybe one of the top stepping stone programs in the country for, quote, players who get overlooked and coaches nobody knows about.
Yep.
So salute to JMU. However, are they better than Notre Dame in a matchup against Oregon? Probably not. This is a David versus Goliath type scenario, which we saw in, that we've seen sometimes in the season. Now, if JMU pulls off the ultimate upset out in Eugene, Oregon, it would be unbelievable. Even if they keep it competitive to the end of the game. That will be a huge step for the JMU program, and they won't have any problem bringing in recruits that they go after, because like we used to say for many years, Wake Forest and other teams, they had to recruit in a different way, in a different manner. And, Wake Forest over the years has had some decent teams. JMU probably is not as good as Notre Dame. And guess what? JMU is not, fan base is probably not going to travel as well as Notre Dame will and bring money to Eugene, Oregon, and hotels and so on and so on and so on. And that's no disrespect to the JMU fan base. Okay? Now, so that's, I don't think they're better than Notre Dame. I've said that like 5 times. Okay, the other one, Tulane. The head coach of Tulane Summerall is going to be at the University of Florida here very soon, and probably as soon as after next Saturday's games. Because if they pull the ultimate upset against Ole Miss, in another David and Goliath type game, it'll be very interesting to watch. I don't even know what the spreads are on those games. But is Tulane better than Miami or Notre Dame? I'll throw Miami
Tulane was
in
going to get in based on their rankings, so that's not even in question.
Well, that's what I mean. But I'm just saying, are they better? Probably not. Should they have been ranked higher than Notre Dame? Probably not. I won't dare pull up their schedule. I won't dare do that. We won't dare pull up the schedule for JMU. Let's not waste time there. So Notre Dame is not calling them out at all. They're not calling them out at all. They are calling out Miami and the ACC. And I listen across the media. I think Notre Dame held a news conference, press conference
to be fair
at noon
today. Tulane did call out because they beat Duke in the regular season, who is the ACC champion.
Exactly.
But they did lose to Ole Miss in the regular season by 35 points.
But Duke is 7-5.
So we get to watch Tulane play someone they already played and lost to by 35 again in the playoffs. But
it's horrible matchups in those rounds. So and you got to wonder, who put all of that together. But there's a business approach when they put these things together, obviously. So we shall see. Ole Miss's coach, Lane Kiffin, no longer there. Will that have an influence? Could Tulane take advantage of that as motivation? And Summerall, he can't go in that game and get beat up again. How's that going to make him look when he goes to Florida? It's not going to look great, And so that's going to be very interesting. But if you said, who are the best 12 teams in the country? And I am not a big Notre Dame fan. Sorry to one of my son-in-laws for me saying that. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan. I think they've gotten by for many years as an arrogant independent. We don't have to be in anybody's conference. We can do what we want. We get all the money back to us. And all of a sudden now they're upset with the ACC because they think Jim Phillips dumped on them somewhat, didn't protect them, didn't really rally for their support as he did for Miami, which he should rally for Miami. Miami has been an ACC team for many years. Notre Dame, for football, is not in affiliation besides playing a few. How many ACC games did they sign up to play? Like 4? Something like that.
4 or 5.
Every other sport, they're fully in. But nope, we're not sharing football revenue, which is where the money is.
Yeah, they played 5 this past season.
Yeah, so in that regard, guess what they need to do? You said it earlier. You sent me a text earlier. Give you full credit. Join a freaking conference, which now.
But that's the thing. They are in the ACC. Everything except for football.
Except
they're
for
a member
football.
of. And
but
so now
share.
they're bitching about it because they don't want to be a full football member. But then when it comes back to bite them in the ass when no one's advocating for them, that's when they say, everything's against us. Well, you made the decision not to do that. ACC, for football specifically, they're paying Notre Dame to be part of this deal. and they're getting none of the benefit really. It feels like a very one-sided deal.
It is. You know why the ACC did it? They did it because of the name Notre Dame's affiliated. And a lot of people would not know this, what you just discussed. They would not know that they are not in for football, even though they agreed to play 4 games or 5, whatever the hell it is, who cares? They do not share their revenue from that big NBC contract they've had forever. They've had that contract before you were born. I bet money on it if you looked it up, and have just renewed it all the time. They've had an NBC contract. I remember when I was young, it's Notre Dame football, and it was on NBC. I don't even know what date it is, but I bet it goes way back. So I don't feel sorry for the Irish. And the other thing that shocked the Bulls, they decided they would opt out because they're pissed off, and we're not going to generate money for the system. So we can clearly see again, it's all about money. It's who gets in, who doesn't get in. And Notre Dame right now is pissed off, just like Mike Norvell and the Seminoles were when we went 13-0. And that brings us to, hey, Lane Kiffin went. Doesn't that change the texture of the team? And some other coaches followed him, even though Charlie Weiss Jr. is going back to coach. Charlie Weiss Jr. played 1 year of high school football, and he didn't even play that much when he was there because he was told, if you want to get into coaching, you better play one year of football. I don't think he even played Pee-wee football. No mistake. He apparently does a very good job, and Lane Kiffin's keeping him. But doesn't that change the texture of the team going into playoffs? It may not change it against Tulane, but I hope it does. I hope Tulane comes out and stings the shit out of them, and that sends a message. And then they will really hate Lane Kiffin back in old Oxford, Mississippi.
Well, to go back to your Notre Dame point, they've already, and many people may not be aware of this, is that there's already been a memorandum signed for next year moving forward that as long as Notre Dame places in the top 12, they automatically make the playoffs moving forward.
Yeah, that's right.
This all becomes a moot point. So then throwing this hissy fit when this is going to be in place next year, where they can play 5 ACC opponents and still schedule their own independent schedule, which really isn't that tough. And the tough opponents they did play this year, they lost to Texas A&M and Miami.
First 2 games of the season.
And started off is a moot point thing moving forward, because they could be in the top 12, and as long as they're in the top 12, they move forward and they get to go to the playoff automatically, just like if they were a conference champion. So they're getting all these advantages and getting catered. And I don't know who the hell in the committee gives them a special package deal that only they get in the country. It's incredible, and like you said, they get all the benefits of the NBC, and they have an NBC only deal, and you're going to give them extra benefits of not playing in the conference.
So
that
what
seem to be
KB? What makes them want to schedule tougher teams? Which all I'm hearing across social media now, people are
because look at their schedule for next season. Look at their schedule for next season: Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, Purdue, North Carolina, Navy, Miami is going to be ranked, Boston College, SMU, Syracuse. Like, this will have maybe 1 ranked team on it, maybe 2. It's a cupcake. Like, once again, this is a guaranteed top 12 finishing. Ross, because they won't play a ranked team until November with this type of. They're not going out and playing the top 5 teams from the SEC or the Big Ten. This is, they get all the benefits of independent scheduling. And some of the cream puffs of the ACC outside of Miami, and they're set. And now they have the memorandum. It's crazy. And then they want to act like the victim of this, that they're getting screw jobs when they lost games. It's not like they went undefeated and got screw jobs.
They have been arrogant since I was a kid. Okay, and when they have, like you said, this premier TV deal and share that money with no one, it's a great business for them. It's a great business for them. Why the ACC would allow it? Because they wanted that brand name. They wanted to associate, and they dropped to their knees in honor of Notre Dame just to have them associated in any fringe way. And that's what the ACC did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they did. That's what they, hey, apologies. Wendy Lakowitz says, actually, Bama beat Georgia in their first go around. Okay. My mistake. My mistake. All right. Good catch, Wendy. Good catch. But yeah, I agree with you.
And they lost to Oklahoma. That, you know, that's, they still had 3 losses, and those are the 3 losses. But regardless, okay, so I'm done with Alabama. They don't have a gripe in my eyes. Alabama, they slide in again. Look at how they played.
They are the first 3-loss team to get into the short history.
Just like
of
with
the
Florida
playoffs.
State, they were a 2-loss team, I believe, that time, and still got in.
No. Florida State was 13-0.
No, I mean when Alabama got in, I believe they had 2 losses on the season when they beat out Florida State.
That's right.
For the slower slot.
That's right.
They have played like trash the last 3 games of the season. Last 3 out of the 4 games of the season. Lost to Oklahoma at home. Auburn, they skin of their teeth. I believe it was the last play of the game or last couple plays of the fourth quarter against Auburn, who's not a very good team. Fired the coach, obviously. 27-20. They scrape that game away. And then they get absolutely destroyed by Georgia in the conference champ. They have -2 rushing yards in that game against Georgia this past weekend.
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking about team momentum and the trajectory of a team going into the playoffs, and I thought that was part of criteria of how is a team performing right now. That's why Florida State got left out, is because we lost our quarterback, the trajectory of the team, The trajectory of Alabama right now does not look good based on how they played against quality competition or just competition in general outside of EIU, you know, an FCS, Eastern Illinois University, who they blew out in the last 4 games. But the quality competitions they played, they have not looked good in the last 4 weeks. It has not looked pretty. And so for them to get the benefit of the doubt with 3 losses against, that doesn't seem to add up to me. Why and we know why. And you can let the TV deals and the ESPN and stuff like that. But for them to leave out, and, you know, and this is where BYU will say, we should have gone in or we should have been bumped, stuff like that. And then I look at who BYU's played, and they didn't do themselves any favors either. They ranked number 12, but you look at, you know, Portland State, Stanford, ECU, you know, and then they go into conference play. They played 2 ranked opponents in the regular season. Utah they beat, Texas Tech they got destroyed by, and then the conference championship you got destroyed again. So BYU, you have to go out and you have to schedule better competition outside your conference. Right. You can't start the season with Portland State and Stanford. Like these are not going to be quality opponents for you. And then the ranked teams on your schedule, you go 1-1 in the regular season, and you get blown out by Texas Tech both times you played them. Like, you know, so I can see why people don't want Alabama to make it because of how they're playing. But BYU, I don't think you really have it. You can't also be a victim like Notre Dame and say, well, we're getting screwed. It's because we're not in the big conference. Well, you're not playing a big conference schedule either. And you're not beating the big teams on your schedule, and you're getting blown out in the process. These weren't field goal games. These weren't 7-point games. It was a beatdown every time you played Texas Tech.
They only scored 14 total points in 2 games against Texas Tech.
Yeah, and they're saying, well, you know, we played the best team twice because, you know, we got the conference championship. Well, Texas Tech is really the only good team in your conference right now. Right. Like look at the standings. They're the cream of your conference, and everyone else is there's a clear line below that. Houston, I don't believe, is even ranked. And Utah, you did beat them, great, but you beat them by 3. So, and your non-conference schedule was garbage. So that's why these teams, and that's, well, we can even go back to the argument. Does the non-conference schedule count? Because if you lose early, will it matter? If you win early, does it matter? Because, you know, and that's why I feel like this committee and the structure, there has to be clear guidelines of what matters and how much it's weighted, stuff like that. Because then we could tell BYU, well, the reason why you didn't make it in is because you didn't play anyone. Your non-conference points, you know, in terms of who you played on your schedule, was not high enough to, you know, to lob you into, you know, into the postseason.
Yeah. They tried that many years ago, and I don't know if it was before your time on Earth or not. They had the computer generated rankings,
DCS,
and it was so there were a lot of statistical categories, right? That the computers would work through, and with the AI now, they could probably put together a number of statistics that they want, that they feel justifies a team ranking of some sort. Rank all the freaking teams they rank everything else, rank them from 1 to the top 50 or the top 25. And AI could do that in minutes. If you give them the categories you want ranked, they could do it. It'd be very interesting if somebody had the computer smarts, and which you guys, people are out there, and try that now with AI. I want you to rank the following categories against all 134 teams in the D1. Can you imagine? That would be very, very interesting for someone to put together, you know? So there's a challenge for somebody out there, not me, because I can't even get my damn phone to shut off. But I thought that was that way there's no bias. Did you see they clicked to, well, here's the committee guys watching the games. They're sitting in these lounge chairs, just propped up, some 40-inch TV and these big, and I only saw like 3 or 4 guys sitting there.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Yeah. You know, I think some of the stuff that upset people against the comparison of Miami and Notre Dame was specifically that I believe it was Notre Dame was ranked every time the committee had come on, the last 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. Yeah. It was always Notre Dame's higher than Miami, Notre Dame's higher than Miami, and then all of a sudden there was the flip, and neither one of them played this weekend. So, you know, but I think Miami, no, I'm saying Miami and Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, Miami didn't play in the conference title because they didn't earn the bid, right?
So not one of them had an advantage there. So it was really the head-to-head play where Miami wins the game in the very remaining seconds down in Miami. That really, I think that they had to do it that way. They had to do it that way.
So do you think that the conference titles, because, you know, what people are saying, what BYU fans are saying is that we're getting penalized for going to a conference championship game and losing to Texas Tech, while now you listen to Kalen DeBoer with Alabama, and he's saying, you know, this game shouldn't count towards our resume. He was saying this before the playoff committee started. He's like, this game shouldn't count towards our resume. We should either be in or out, but the result of this shouldn't count towards
No, it counts.
Which side do you? So you believe it should count?
I believe it counts. Yeah, I believe this has been the nature of college football forever. You know, you play for a championship, you know, and it is like Duke wins his championship. They end up 7-5. They don't get invited to the playoffs. It's something, and they shouldn't, because their record is not good enough. They stumbled into the game. Virginia is not that powerful of a team either. So the Ace, to me, thank God Miami got in. I really wonder if they say, we got to get an ACC team in here. And if that had little bit of an advantage, but I think it was the play Miami against Notre Dame. However, how embarrassing would it have been if Miami would have lost another game somewhere along the line, okay? And they're not worthy of getting in. No ACC teams would have entered the playoffs, which, you know, in my mind, might justify, that's why Florida State's trying to leave. Florida State's trying to leave because this conference is dog shit, is what it is, and it's all being pointed out. So hopefully, and we hate Miami because we're Florida State guys, okay? Hopefully they have a good run. We'll see.
But there's no way. I don't want them to have a good run.
Well, for the ACC, you do.
I don't give a shit about the conference in general. But you couldn't do the eye test and say Miami couldn't get in over Notre Dame. I mean, they beat them head to head. Like, that has to count for something. Like, when you're looking at a team and their schedules and their records, and you look at two lost teams, you know, and then you can go down. Oh, well, they lost to SMU and Louisville, and Notre Dame lost to.
Well, Alabama lost to a crap FSU team. It didn't seem to count about them, and no one said a word about that. Well, no one said a word about Alabama, and no one even mentioned the Florida State.
And that's
game
why it's better to lose early. That's why it's better to lose early.
Well, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter when you lose.
But that's how it is.
It shouldn't matter at all.
Or it's the
if you lose, you lose.
And then back to the biases and back to the media and how I think they play into the college football playoff and stuff like that. It was the whole should conference championships count or not, and what it sounded like what Herbstreit was talking about was that it shouldn't count for Alabama the way they were playing against Georgia. It shouldn't go into any decision making. So I'm going to play this clip.
I'm just saying they have, based on the committee's rankings, and it really didn't come into play. Well, now, after last week's rankings, the only team that was in between them was BYU. And I don't think teams should ever be punished for playing a conference championship game, but in this case, you and I called the game in Lubbock. It was one-sided. I'm just saying they...
So he basically said it shouldn't count, but it should only count for BYU because they got obliterated while he's watching Georgia destroy Alabama live. Like, if that doesn't show you the biases
it's bad.
of these networks and what they're the double speak that they say for the SEC, he's literally watching Georgia destroy Alabama. Alabama has -2 rushing yards for the game. And he has the audacity to say it should only count for BYU because of how they played today. Like, you can't make that up.
You know who the ultimate insider on this ESPN collusion with the SEC would be? It would be Lee Corso, but he's not gonna get involved in this shit. And I don't blame him, but he would know. Or this controversy will continue. Conspiracy controversy will continue to march on, and it's funny how Alabama's been involved in it twice. So it's weird. Very, very interesting. And the same thing, like I say, when FSU got snubbed because the quarterback went down, Jordan Travis went out, and that was, the coach, a head coach, the number one hottest trending coach in the country, leaves the team as it enters the playoff. Nope, doesn't seem to matter. So you're telling me that as long as you got a competent quarterback and he's healthy, your head coach could leave.
Yeah, that's true. One other thing, I posted earlier that each of the teams that get selected from for the playoffs receives a $4 million for making the playoff.
And the coaches get an incentive too, as well. Let's not forget.
And now, do you think it's weird that you could be on the playoff committee, and so the athletic director at that school gets a piece of that pot essentially for their conference? Do you think that could lead into some corruption or to some biases on, okay, let's get another SEC team in or get another Big Ten team in because, okay, that's another extra $4 million we get to split up?
Yeah, I don't, I remember when the committee was first formed, I think, wasn't it Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State under Obama, was on it. I'm going, what the shit does she know about all of this? They had to have some name. I think I don't want to say it's corrupt. I don't want to say it's fixed because I don't have any evidence to that. I don't even want to say that because you hope not, but who the hell knows? Because there's so much money involved. When there's a lot of money involved, you never frickin' know or how the voting goes. We don't know how the voting goes. We don't know, okay, we're going to bring Alabama in. Did they have a vote on that shit? Was it unanimous? Is it one vote over the others wins? I don't know. I don't know how that's done.
Yeah.
But it's pissed a lot of people off. Okay, it's pissed a lot of people off when you say, hey, Notre Dame, it could be whoever you are. Hey, you got in, but hey, JMU got in. You didn't get in, but JMU got in.
Well, and that's $4 million for the Sun Belt, and that's gonna be that's that's a big chunk of money for those types of teams. So but yeah, I mean it's meaningful for G5 type of schools. So
let's talk about the biggest game of the weekend. And what was that? Ohio State takes on Indiana in Indianapolis in the Dome, which I really liked because weather wasn't a factor. Yep. Weather wasn't a factor. It was pure football. And Indiana, the Cinderella team for the past 2 seasons under Mr. What's his name? Canetti, right? The head coach, Canetti. All right. Amazing. a job this guy's done. But you know what? When he first took the job, I think people kind of laughed about that, didn't they, KB?
They did. They did.
Did they laugh a little bit about that?
Holy moly! This
Wait.
in the history of
Look, man, we might be sitting here in 3 years and people are making fun of us because
I hope
Cignetti's
so.
just lighting a cigar in Indianapolis, having beaten Ohio.
His production on the field, I'd like to see the percentage of that.
holy moly! This is the worst hire in the history of football.
Look, man.
Play that. You got to play that again. You got to play. Now, let's set it up this time.
Someone dug this up.
Oh my God! Who is it? Give him credit. If you see,
FSU
you can give.
plays daily. FSU plays daily. Dug this up.
FSU plays daily. Good. You know what? FSU plays daily. Had to go to the cemetery, dig that up, find the shovels, because I'm sure War Chant wanted to let that thing go, man. Oh my Lord!
So I believe this is from the opening presser for.
And you know these guys, yeah. You got what's his name? Who's that guy up top? What's his name?
I don't watch them, so
yeah, I know. You
know.
got Corey, you got Ira, and you got
James Cameron.
His production on the field, I'd like to see the percentage of that.
Holy moly! This is the worst hire in the history of football.
Look, man, we might be sitting here in 3 years and people are making fun of us because Cignetti's just lighting a cigar in Indianapolis, having beaten
he's
Ohio
like
State.
the cool. He's like the cool.
Well, you're right.
He's
He
got his
doesn't smoke
cocktail and he's drunker than hell at that press conference.
drunker in hell.
So when you talk about insider information, the guys, I would never pay for any of these sites on three. I mean,
nobody has any insiders. Break. If you want to know what's going on in CFB, you really, who is it? Pete Thamel. No. There are some legitimate guys.
The national media, FSU insider information gets to the national media before any. I mean, honestly, like most of the big news just gets out there. It's not like
it comes out through a guy like Pete Thamel, who's a national guy.
Yeah.
There's certain national guys who will break, and I have them on my, because I go over the shit, but it's not coming out of FSU media sites. It is not coming out of those. So you can pay all you want, okay, to these FSU sites. Go ahead. That's okay. That's your choice. Okay, it's like betting on football or betting on horses or whatever the hell you want. But you're not getting anything. Otherwise, they have no real sources. They'll say, well, I'll talk to the sources, and my sources close to the program. They don't get anything. And they've admitted it sometimes on the programs. We have no idea. They say, we have no idea. Well, we don't have any idea either. You guys can, we're not trolling anybody. No. We're just saying there's a clip right there. Nobody really knows what the hell's going on. If they did, they'd understand why all the fans are asking, Mike, how did you get that black eye? Okay, how did you get that black? Not that's a big deal. Probably ran into a doorknob. I don't know. But what we're saying is you're paying for these special threads and premium shit. Go ahead. I don't know. Maybe you've learned something that we don't know about, but that's okay. Enough. But that is one of the funniest clips, and we keep that in our file, right? We have some stuff in the file, It's that's funny. This guy, Cignetti, came from James Madison. How long was he at James Madison? 2 years? 2 seasons. I think he won the title there, one or both seasons. He won a whole bunch of damn games there in 2 seasons. And what does he do? He gets an invite from the shittiest team in the Big Ten, Indiana. Well, they don't know how to win a game. They don't know how to win a game.
Yeah. All
right. And guess what? He shows up. I saw him in an interview. He said, I showed up on campus when I got the job. The mood there was, football was nothing there.
Well, they were 3-9 the previous year.
3-9
before he came in. 1-8 in the conference. Before that, the year before that, they were 4-8, 2-7 in the conference.
You mean at Indiana?
Yeah, before he got there.
Yeah. They were, at JMU. How long was he at JMU?
2 years.
And he won just about every game he was there, I think.
He won 8-3 and 11-1.
There you go. And he won a championship, I believe.
Yeah.
This guy.
I'm not sure about that, but
Now, we're not going to sit here and say this guy's going to win the national championship. I don't think that's going to probably happen.
Because remember, they were FBS when he got there.
Right.
To
If
they
he
weren't FCS.
wins, he was here to transition.
So
them.
they weren't doing.
Yeah. If he wins the national championship, it'll be unbelievable.
Oh, he'll get another. He already got an extension. They'll have to re-up that most likely.
Oh, they would. They absolutely would. They probably in the extension they got a bunch of incentives in there. But you know what? He doesn't have to win the national championship, KB. He won the Big Ten championship, knocked down the Ohio State Buckeyes and their elite team, okay, and actually took them down. And I know you were traveling, didn't see a lot of the game. Yeah. The final play that they needed to get a first down on, their quarterback threw a perfect pass to their wideout, who made a great catch. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
And once again,
incredible.
I think the
incredible
biggest thing
performance by this team.
Someone shared was like the talent composition between Ohio State and Ohio. You know, Ohio State is number 1 or 2 in talent composition, and Indiana's like 76 or 77th.
Yep.
And that goes back to my point. I always say is that, at some point, players got to execute, and players got to be put in position. You got to call the right plays. You got to be locked in practice,
and they have to be developed, as you always say.
Yeah,
they got to be trained up, coached up, and developed up to execute in the key time.
Because Florida State absolutely lost this year with better talent. They just weren't executing, and we saw
and weren't
that
coached
time
up
and time
well
again.
enough, and not coached up well enough.
I think it was a number of things, but because and Kurt is not getting 5 stars. He's not getting,
no.
But he's making the most of it and putting the right players in positions to succeed. And it's really incredible to watch, because I thought they were going to get curbed against Ohio State. I thought Ohio State was just going to destroy them, and it was a tight game, and Indiana came out on top, and so I was wrong on that. And,
you did say that. You did think.
I thought they were going to.
I didn't know. Yeah.
I thought Ohio State was going to, they were hot and they were going to come out. And no, Indiana's defense showed up, and then the offense made plays when they needed to. And it's a credit to, like I said, the players and the coaching staff. And that's something that, once again, we put so much emphasis on having the big-time quarterback or having the big-time receiver or da-da-da. But you have to have the right players to fit the right system too. Like if you're running a 3-3-5, you got to have the right players to run the 3-3-5, and they don't all have to be 5-star, but they have to be the players that can efficiently run that defense.
But
the right offense. If you're running the spread offense, if you're you have to have the players that can not just run, but they need to be able to pass effectively when you need to pass effectively. And also at the coaching side, you need a coach that can resonate with his players and not say the same message 6 years in a row about climbing. And so it does come down to coaching as well. Do you have the right coach that can cultivate a culture of accountability and hard work and showing up every single day, especially in the era of NIL? You need players to be especially locked in. You need to find the right players that are going to be locked in, and no matter the distractions around money and contracts and sponsorships, but when they come into practice and when they come into the game, it's all focused on the field and all focused on their development with the coaches. And I think Kurt's a guy that is extremely focused, and even after he wins, he looks angry and he looks like he's going to get into the film room just right after the game. And that's something I feel like Florida State's been missing for a while.
You hit that point, and then we'll move on to FSU news. When that game ended, and I don't know if you saw the end, when that game ended, he took his headphones off, handed it to somebody, and just walked across the field like he had won nothing. Yeah. He had won nothing. He had won the biggest game in the history of Indiana football, and one of the biggest games in the history of Big Ten football, and the biggest game of his lifetime, and it looked like it was nothing. And there's that old saying, don't celebrate when you do something really, really good. It looks like you didn't expect to win. You didn't expect to make the putt or hit the home run or anything. Let people know that that's what your expectation is, so why should I be surprised? Why should I be overwhelmed? Amazing. He walked across that field stone-faced to meet Day. a coach of Ohio State who was shocked, had to be shocked.
And to your point about celebrating and just staying focused and stuff like that, I mean, I think that showed a little bit in Florida State, Alabama. It kind of got acted like that was our national championship, and it was all kind of downhill after that game because it felt like they had reached the summit. But that was game one. That was not the summit. You needed to continue that level of effort and that focus for 12 plus more weeks, and they didn't have that. And then when they went to go face UVA on the road and they got punched in the mouth for the first time, they weren't prepared for it. The defense couldn't step up and they lost the game, and then that just cascaded on them. But you're right. You need a coach that just doesn't say the words, but you also need players that hold other players accountable. You need captains. You need leaders. And I don't know if Tommy, as a quarterback, was always a leader. He did show signs of being me first
and some immaturity at times.
And so you need guys. And I think that was what was special about the 2023 team, even though there was transfers but there were some legacy recruits on that team from high school that had been there for a while. That I think there was a level of accountability when things aren't going right or when we're playing. It's every player, every game is going to be treated the same. But you need those guys embedded throughout the different levels of your team. It can't just be one player. It can't just be two players. It's the guys at the second string, the first string who are going to, if someone's not slouching at practice or someone, messes up on the field, makes a turnover, they get them back in line and get them refocused because the coaches can't see everything. The coaches can't be there after practice. Coaches can't, keep constant communication. And I think that's also there is, I wouldn't say a crumbling culture, but doesn't feel like a solid culture of accountability always at Florida State football. And that kind of does bleed over, I think, into the performance and the development of players on the field. And I don't know how you fix that. It's hard to fix that when you're dealing with a lot of transfers every single year. Because it's hard for a guy that's been there for 2 years to then immediately respect a guy that comes in there for one. And because you have to build that relationship up. So you really do have to try to hopefully retain some guys from high school or guys that have been there for 2 or 3 years and hope that they step up to be a leader so people rally around them. Because I think it's hard to build leadership through the transfer portal. That's not to say you can't win through the transfer portal. We see examples of that like Texas Tech and stuff like that. So I'm not making an excuse there.
They spent a ton of money.
But I do think that Florida State obviously has a number of issues to point out. But once again, to repeat the point, you can't treat one game as your championship like Florida State did in week one. You got to build a culture of next game up or next team up.
And I think that was his mood when he walked across the field. We expect to be here.
Yeah.
We expect to be here every year.
Yeah.
And so it's not a surprise. We're not here to surprise people. We're here to beat the hell out of people. And he's done that, as you said, with not a lot of stars next to people's names. Yeah. Okay. And I would love to know how many people he actually pulled from JMU, but we're not going to look that up. He pulled people from everywhere. And maybe, what they used to do is other staffs would go visit other colleges during the summer and spring to learn, and coaches would invite people in. I wonder if anybody will study, how did you pull this off? How were you able to pull this off? It would be a good study, but it set a lot of history, and it will always be remembered no matter what he does in the playoffs. Okay? He beat the Giant. He beat Ohio State at their best with a full complement. They had all their players. They had the two, what they call the best wideouts in college football, and he beat them.
And last year, we're talking, or 2024, their high school ranked class was 60th in the country.
Wow.
And last year's, it was 53rd.
Well, it ain't going to be that way anymore.
Well, this year was 31st.
Yeah.
And but once again, it's they're not beating you with just raw talent. They're beating you with strategy. They're beating you with development. They're beating you with the playbook. They're beating you with buy-in. And like you said, they're finding the right players that execute the way they want to execute. And they're not just. And once again, they're in Indiana, so they have talent, but they're not getting. I mean, Florida State's so lucky to they are getting and they're getting select players out of the state of Florida. They do get people out of Sarasota, so they're able to selectively get the players in the Midwest, and then get the guys they need out of Florida as well, which is disappointing. You shouldn't lose guys to Indiana out of your home state, which has been an issue for a while for the Big Three because of how badly they played. Miami's done a very good job at recruiting the last couple of years on the crystal ball. Performance hasn't always been there, but recruiting has been. But that's something Florida State, once again, they got to keep players in state and they got to develop them. So more players want to come to this program. But that's, I mean, we could go on and on about the Norvell failures of the program. But it doesn't always just come down to raw talent. That it does come down to proper coaching, proper buying, proper culture.
I agree.
So.
I agree. And you've always said that, and I agree with that. But I think you have to have that combination, as we've said.
Yeah.
You've got to have a level of talent, coachable talent, and so on. But just because you get some 5 stars doesn't mean you're always going to win. No. And we've seen that. The question is, can a average coach win with average talent? I don't know. Maybe. I think that's the situation at Florida State right now, and that could be a problem. That if you have the average coach and he hasn't proven anything in 6 years here, is that going to dramatically change? I don't know. Could you take $30 million and go out and buy a team in the portal and expect they're going to win out? I don't know.
I mean, it is possible, but once again, you have to have a financial backing. You have to have a financial commitment that it's going to happen. And I don't think Alford's giving that, to be honest with you. And to be fair, like you said, his first class, Sonetti did have a lot of JMU guys, but he did also have a lot. He picked in. I mean, Mendoza, the quarterback this year, from
California, and
Florida State played against that guy 2 years ago.
Did you know his brother is the backup quarterback? His brother is the backup. The first play of the game, KB, he went down. Mendoza went down with a brutal hit. And I said, holy shit, the game just changed in one play.
Yeah.
He went out of the game. His brother came in for one play. I said to myself, I hope, leave Mendoza out for the whole series. Give him a chance to recover. He went back in after one play, never came out again.
Yeah.
Amazing game he had.
Yeah. What's interesting too is the schools that they get transfers from, and we've talked about it, and I know but the evaluation of talent. I really hit this home last show is that we need to hire. I don't care if it's the best evaluator of talent that's possible. Especially for the transfer portal, because you're not going to be, if you blow your load on getting the guy from the SEC who's a fringer starter or a starter at Arkansas, a school that sucks, and you want to pay him a lot of money to come to your school and start on the offensive line. Well, you just blew a 10% or 15% of your budget. You need to go find, like Indiana is, the kid from Georgia State, the kid from Appalachian State, the kid from Cal, the kid from Maryland, the kid from UAB, the kids who can play that are under the radar that you can afford.
Or how about an Aaron Rodgers who never got noticed out of college?
Well, okay. Well,
I'm just saying.
It is. There's a lot of kids out there that have production.
Absolutely. And they can't go to all these camps. No. They can't go to all these stupid camps that are big money. That's another big money thing, right? Is these camps and getting stars and all this other bullshit. But as you say, a majority of the players are not those kids.
No.
It is
I
the
think Indiana took 51 transfers in, and only 3 or 4 were from the SEC.
Yeah.
51, and 4 of them were from the SEC.
Yeah, because
they're finding, you got to find unique. If you're taking a lot of transfers in and trying to rebuild and reload, you got to go deeper. You got to go below surface level to look for quality talent, and you got to be able to allocate that budget correctly.
And that brings up a perfect transition. Is the Tallahassee Democrat published an article. And it said Florida State has brought in a consultant, a guy named Jake Rosenberg, a former NFL executive with the Philadelphia Eagles, who leads a consulting firm specializing in college football front office structures. So it's not necessarily a talent acquisition evaluation guy. He's going to come in, give a full report. They're going to pay him lots of money to do this. Trust me, it's probably a lot of money. He doesn't talk about that. But he's supposed to come in, and this is one of the things that Alford has promised. We're going to make big changes, and he's coming in to do this report. So that should be very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I mean, That is good that they're making that commitment. And I do think, once again, it's probably not going to be cheap, but they do have to, like you said, and of course this article is paywalled, like everything else in this country.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
But I think the line that was interesting is that, well, you can see in kind of the header text, the preview text, is that they'll benchmark FSU strategies for evaluating, developing, and probably producing talent. And I think that's so important. You got to see how well you've succeeded in taking in talent, how well you've succeeded in that talent producing, and then where does that talent go afterwards? Do they get to the next level? And
it's accountability for those evaluations.
Exactly. What is our hit rate so far? Is our hit rate 10%? 15%, 20%. I think it's less than 50% probably at this point. And we've done some shows, and we should probably do another show for this past class we did. Like last year's class was not good. We know that. It was not a good hit rate. The class before that was a higher hit rate, and you had a good season in 2023. So I think it's smart that they're going to come in and benchmark that. I don't think you shouldn't have to pay someone to do that, honestly. That should be internally done. You could hire an intern to do that. But I think that will help know.
You mean to put the figures together. Yeah, to compile the data.
Yeah. And then you can
you could have a guy who really knows AI there at Florida State come in and probably pull that shit together.
But I think that line alone is telling me that thankfully they're looking at the data now. If they haven't been, that's kind of scary. But now they're looking at their transfer data and what they're producing, what they're not producing, and who's accountable for that. So that's an important piece. So if JP or Coach Tark or whoever is in charge of evaluating these certain recruits, what is his individual hit rate as a coach? That I think is important to say, okay, Tark, you were responsible for bringing, recruiting and targeting these 15 portal guys over the last 3 years. Only one of them has produced for us and been able to elevate to the starting roster and do this. That's not a good hit rate. You got to go. So I would hold each of our coaches responsible for their
we never did that for Alex Atkins, did we? Until
it was too late.
It was too late. Push to come to shove. That's right.
But like you said, the data would have told it. If you would have looked at Alex Atkins' data, even at the 2023 season, you would have seen his roster composition was not good because the guys he was recruiting out of high school weren't playing, and you were having to refill the top with transfers year to year. And so the data would have told you he had a very low hit rate in terms of what he was producing from high school. And you could say, well, the transfer hit rate was higher, but those guys from transfers weren't going to the next level. So that shows you a lack of development to the next level.
That's right.
And so you got to build this formula so you can hold coaches accountable, especially in the era of the portal. You have to have it. So
I think you and I know, and we love looking at statistics, in that regard. I think you're exactly right. You need to have a couple of expert AI statistical guys who the coach or the GM, who there's going to be a GM, obviously. I think we have one now, right? Yeah. Having structure is one thing. Having the right people in the right structure is another thing. And having people in the right people asking the right questions is another thing. Yeah. That's really key. You just hit on it. And having that data will start to tell you this guy's really not because the recruiting end where you have to go out and meet people is really not going to change. Okay. You have to go have good communication skills with the parents, with now the agents, the representatives, with the kid and all of that. That human piece is not going to change, but these coaches have to be held accountable because they're getting paid big money as well. And we a lot of times we just don't know what they're really producing. Are they held to account when they grade out each of the games?
Well, so what they'll say, and that's what they'll, and you're right. Because
why is it just special teams? And we'll get into that now because we lost a coach, which a lot of fans are upset with, and I'm a little upset. I don't understand why. Patrick Surtain, who has brought in a lot of very highly rated recruits. Patrick Surtain, they just signed a 4-star guy. They signed this guy, and then they fired Patrick Surtain, which I think is dirty. I think that's dirty freaking pool. But isn't that culture? How do you say, well, up front with the kids. The kids can come into my door and so on. And then you bring this kid in. If I was his parent, now come on, if you're his parent, you just signed because you want to play for Patrick Surtain. He's the guy you're going to see all the time. He's the guy that's going to be in the film room with you. He's the guy showing you the technique. He's the guy that played in the NFL, had a great college career, and played in the NFL for many seasons. He's the guy whose kid is in the NFL.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I don't get told that. I sign on the line, and he gets fired. I would want an explanation from Mike Norvell. Why did you just fire this coach and I didn't frickin' know about it? Come on, KB. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not telling you it's wrong. I'm not telling you wrong. It's just common
oh
practice,
my God, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
And Mike Norvell is the guy who preaches, oh, we're up front with everybody. We're up front. That's our culture. We're going to let people. That's bullshit. Even though you say it goes on, wherever that goes on, shit needs to be changed. That needs to be changed. He should have been called up before he signed. Said, I want to let you know something. We want you here, but we're changing position coaches. We still want you, but if you decide to change your mind, we respect that. That's how you do that.
Yeah.
That's how you do that.
Yeah,
you don't play this dirty pool because you know what? That's the shit that ends up in your record looking like shit.
Yeah. Well, but like I said, this is common practice. It's not like you
now
said,
this kid can't go anywhere, right? Can't go anywhere.
No,
he's signed. He's locked in.
Yeah.
He's locked in.
But once again, we don't know what was said to him and not. So we don't know if this was conferred to him at the time.
I don't know that. You're
So
exactly
I'm
right. Maybe Mike Norvell picked up the phone and called him before signing. Maybe he did.
I mean, you got to expect that a school that has not performed well in the last 3 or 4 years.
If I was in the press room, which we haven't been allowed, we asked for credentials to go. They said no. We're not a qualified program, whatever that shit is. No, I'm just saying this.
Okay.
I would have asked this question. How does this work, coach? You get a kid to sign, and then the coach is released. I would just ask that instead of this. Oh, okay. Enough. I feel better.
So everyone's talked about the recruits that Surtain, which is true. He's probably one of the better recruiters on the staff and has been for the last.
I bet he's brought in more 4 stars than anyone on this.
But my question is, these kids, none of these kids are playing. Charles Lester has been here for 2 seasons. He's not playing.
Gonna be gone.
Jamar Howard's been here 4-star, not playing. Kai Bates has been here 2 years, not playing.
But all the other guys he brought in are playing.
Who?
Who are the other guys? He brought all those guys in.
You tell me. You said he's a great recruiter.
I don't have the list in front of me.
But that's the thing. None of his recruits are playing. They're not playing.
Well,
he gets credit for Azaria Thomas, who was already here. He gets credit for Renardo Green, who was already here.
He gets credit for Jerron Jones,
who was already here, NFL. Who was a transfer. So, he's getting high school talent here.
But they didn't leave.
None of that's developed into starting defenders, and our pass defense wasn't elite this year. Let's just be honest.
But our defensive line wasn't elite either, and Hambone's still here.
Okay.
Well, what's he?
But I'm just saying.
Pot Roast is still here. He gave up 266 yards.
I don't want
to a 3-5 running back who's elite. I'll give you that. He's an elite running back.
Yeah,
but 266 yards against
Tony
Tony
White. Can we focus
Weiss,
on the coach? One coach.
Yeah.
So you can say he's a fabulous recruiter, but I don't think
I didn't say he was a fabulous recruiter.
You said he was an elite recruiter.
Effective. I said he was an effective.
You said a great recruiter.
I don't think you'd have to roll the tape back on that.
So no, you said that, and I'm just looking at the recruits he's brought in. Why are none of these kids playing? It's not like we have an elite defensive back group right now. I mean, Arnois was the only one that was playing, and that guy would celebrate after giving up 11 yards on the attack. Like, that's the only thing. So no one's safe. No one should be safe. And I'm not saying right or wrong, there's a good call.
No one
but
should be
at
safe.
some point, we need to see development from players. We need to see, if you're bringing in 4-stars, these guys need to be playing a year or 2, especially
You're saying we should see a guy like KJ Bolden, who we were in the hunt for, never got. And he started as a freshman, and he's having a good season.
Yeah, and he's an elite player. And that's the player we didn't land. He would have been an impact player. But, Charles Lester should be playing right now. He was almost a national top 50 player, cornerback.
Well, why doesn't this get asked by someone either in pressers or they go out? Don't they? if you're a major media site, right? If you're a major FSU media site, you should be able to get some interviews off camera and write your stories. They're just writing their opinions like us. Okay, they're no different than us, and they're charging premium rates and all this other shit across the FSU media sites. And we're not here to troll them. But what I'm saying, you're asking me questions. I don't have access to anybody. We put out stuff.
You have access to the data. You have access to us recruits. You have access to that.
Okay, but I'm saying I don't have access to the person across to sit down and do an interview. I put out on X. I put out on X to Patrick Surtain, to him directly, said, you're welcome to come on here anytime, and we'll sit and talk football and what happened at FSU. And then we could ask these questions. Why do I have to do hours and hours of research and do that? No, we don't get nothing from anybody. We do this for fun and joy and because we love Florida State. But the people that pay their bills on this shit should be able to have that information.
Yeah.
Those are the stories people want to hear.
Yeah. So there has been hirings as well, and this could help with Pot Roast and his position group. So they hired Syracuse coach Nick Williams today.
Did we not have an edge coach before? I guess
well,
not.
Papa Jewis, I guess, was his special teams and I think defensive ends. I think was his exact title. So some were saying, does that mean he's going to go now?
He should.
He should go.
We've seen enough of him. He's been here for 6 years,
but
and we haven't seen much.
Yeah. So Nick Williams is now here. Of course.
Tell me why he's a good hire.
Well, I mean, he's been part of good recruiting classes. Well, once again, you talk about development. He's a younger coach. He's coached in good programs. Texas A&M. He's coached with Syracuse when they went 10-3. So he's been part of good.
His biggest resume I saw online was a 7th round pick, D end that he coached at Syracuse.
So that's what everyone's focused on there. He's saying the 7th round pick. The 7th round pick. Well, I mean, it's not like FSU sending NFL guys at a prime level right now.
You're right. Right.
So
Right.
I think for him, he's worked with Georgia, he's worked at Texas A&M, he's worked with some big time programs in terms of how he's learned and coaches he's worked under. So he knows how to operate. He worked at Colorado with Prime and putting in one of their initial top 30 recruiting class, one of their best when he was actually there.
Prime's defenses have sucked.
But he's also coached first round picks: Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Watt. So it's not just they're like focused on this 7th round pick, but he's also worked with guys who are all ACC and first round picks. He's coached those guys. So I think for it's hard to get coaches when some could frame you as a coach who's on a head coach who's kind of sitting in the wings ready to get fired for season after season. So I think this is a pretty good hire in terms of a young coach. And from what I'm seeing in terms of comments of people who know about this guy, they respect him as a very good recruiter. So if we're all going to get pissy about Surtain being fired, I think they should be happy about this guy getting fired because they feel like he can effectively recruit at that position, which we need to do more effective. James Williams wasn't working last year. We need to get better edge. We need to find the next Jared Verse. We need to find someone who can set the edge and dominate on it.
I think this comment by Robert here that he has Nick Williams has strong ties to the Georgia area is probably. It's about you have to show you can bring competent, effective football players into your program. So I'm judged. A lot of coaches are being judged that way. So maybe that's his real strength here.
And he's a young guy, so I think that can also help. And he's trying to make a name for himself. He's looking at this as another step up in his career.
That's right.
And so he doesn't want to come in and shit the bed. And
no.
Once again, this is not a. I don't think it's going to be easy for Mike Norvell to go find elite coaches who want to work in this environment right now.
You're right.
I think we need to embrace this guy and embrace him. He sees this as a step up from Syracuse, Florida State, which it is, regardless of record, brand it is. So if he can come in and he can develop an all ACC guy, because you see the interior, you see the Desir twins, you have something there. You have foundation pieces. But if
I think he has some ties to Tony White, maybe.
Maybe from Syracuse. I don't know if there's crossover there. I don't think there was. But if he can come in and he can develop the existing roster, or he can go in and evaluate and find someone in the portal he likes and turn them into an all ACC guy, once again, he builds his resume, and even if Norvell's gone, he goes, look what I did in 1 year. Look what I've done.
Right.
So he's betting on
That's
himself, and we're betting on him.
Right.
And so I think, once again, I think it's a good win-win. People respect his recruiting ability, but I want to see his development ability. That's a big thing.
And it probably didn't cost him that much.
Exactly.
The program to bring him in.
That's another good point.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then obviously we're going to lose our running backs coach, which I think a lot of people are happy about just because of.
Well, he brought in some guys.
Well, that's
though.
the thing. People are happy about it because they hated how the usage of running backs were last year, and I don't think that was necessarily
his fault.
Well,
that's not his fault.
You don't know that. You don't know how that goes into the game plan and stuff like that. So, but I think David Johnson's done a very good job recruiting. I think honestly, if you're talking about recruiting,
right?
I think the guys he's kind of brought into the room are pretty good.
Yeah.
In terms of Chroma and Cam Davis, Singleton. Now,
who some people don't like. Singleton.
I
like it.
I don't think we've landed in a elite. We haven't landed a Jaden Ball. Like Jaden Ball made our running backs look slow. Like we have not landed the next Cam Akers in 6 years, right?
Hitting
we haven't
that
landed.
Hitting that hole.
But once again, it's hard to do that when you're winning 6 games, 7 games. Like even after the 2023 season, we still couldn't land that top. We haven't recruited well under Mike Norvell in all facets. So David Johnson's done well, but has he done great? Maybe not, right? But he's been able to get skill position guys in here that are effective in my eyes. And that's probably why he's getting hired to Arkansas, who's rebuilding under Ryan Silverfield, who, funny enough, obviously took over from Mike Norvell at Memphis.
Well, he was here. Didn't he bring Benson in?
I don't know who gets credit for that transfer, but maybe you could give him credit for that.
He's been here like 6 years, so.
But I don't know who gets, I don't know who made the pick. I would say David Johnson would probably get credit for that. So yeah, I think this actually is, a bigger hurt than maybe Surtain. We've seen development in terms of the running backs.
He must have a decent reputation, or he's not going to get selected to go to Arkansas.
No, I totally agree with you.
Unless he has a tight relationship with the new coach there.
No, I totally agree with you. And we had 6 playable running backs this year, and I think honestly that was an issue.
And you know what? You know what? Maybe he takes one running back with him from 100%, Florida State's room.
100%.
Who do you think that would be?
Cam Davis, or I mean. He would probably take Usman and he'd be a starter, probably. Once again, I don't know.
You never know. There's more shit to come on this. When these guys leave, you don't think that? Yeah.
Oh no, we're going to lose at least. Sawchuk
to play in the SEC. He could tell these guys, you get a chance to play in the best conference, and this is going to pump your visibility, and you're going to be able to compete and probably play here.
Yeah, you're gonna lose at least 2 running backs at minimum. So I think this is. No, you need to lose a couple. You can't play this rotation.
You're gonna lose some guys out of eligibility alone. I'd like to see him keep Cam Davis. I'd like to see him keep Singleton and Cromar. The rest are who's left on eligibility.
I mean, you just named 5, right?
No, I just named 3.
Oh well, you signed a freshman.
Okay, so you got 4. Class. There's 4 guys we keep. Who else do we need?
Singleton, Chroma, Jalen Lucas. So you have 4 right there.
Those guys are still eligible next year?
I think Jalen Lucas will be a senior.
Oh my lord!
Chroma will be a true sophomore. Singleton will be a junior. Sawchuk, I believe, will be a senior.
Oh my lord!
So, like I said, you can afford to lose a guy. If there's someone elite out there, I think you cut a couple and go for the elite guy, because none of those guys in my eyes are elite running backs. I think once again we haven't seen what Chroma.
Well, they haven't had enough carries to find out.
No, you can tell. Yes, they have. Sawchuk has been playing football for 5 years.
Yeah, Sawchuk he had an elite year at Oklahoma. He did at Oklahoma that 1 year as a freshman. I think it was.
Once again,
800 yards is a lot of damn yards in the SEC.
But not one time did any of these running backs this year break a home run. I don't think there's a home run hitter on this roster in terms of running back. So I think if you see a big time running back out there, you still go after him in my eyes, but they need to be a home run hitter, because I don't think
you're going to attract a big home run hitter.
If they're going to be a starter, you can attract anybody.
We don't know if an OC's staying. The running backs coach just left. Good luck trying to bring in that big hitter unless you got a big bag of damn money to talk to him. When you sit down to talk to the guy and his rep, you better open up the bag of money and let it spill out.
Well,
that's your chances.
One thing.
Go after Ball. Bring him a big bag of money. The question is,
no, you're not gonna.
A running back wants to know who the hell's blocking. What kind of offense are you running? Who's the OC? Can we answer those questions right now? The answer is no, we can't.
Well, no.
But we know
it's going to be Gus Malzahn. It should. You assume it'd be Gus Malzahn until told otherwise. We're making an assumption. You and I have said we don't expect Gus to be back.
I don't understand. I think he may be back because we haven't heard shit.
Exactly.
How long are they going to drag this shit out?
Well, there's nothing to drag out. He's still under contract, right? So we're the ones saying he's going to be gone, but that isn't necessarily the case, right? We're the ones saying that. So
I would just tell Gus. I think Gus is smart enough. If I'm Norvell, listen, Gus. Here's what I really didn't like about this year. I don't like 6 or 7 running backs in the first 2 series when we hold the ball. I also want running backs to catch the ball out of the frickin' backfield. So if we have to throw them 100 passes, swing passes over the summer, then let's do that. That's another thing. And I don't want all these trick plays. I want a couple of trick plays for each game, and that's it. I want to run the damn football. I want to control the football and rush to set up the pass. And I'm going to have a pocket passer. Are you into this, or you're out, Gus? What can you do that? I'm the head coach. KB, I'm the head coach. I'm telling you what I need.
Well,
we need to adjust. You said this early in this session. We need to adjust to the people we have, not the other way, not to force something we don't have. I'm sick of this RPO shit on everything.
But that's
Play what the NFL plays.
That's not what Malzahn does.
The NFL doesn't do this shit, okay? Do what the NFL does. That's why players come. They want to go to the NFL, all right? They don't want to spend 8 years in college football. But, in the run, I bet you some guy could sue and say, what if I just want to play college football for 8 or 9 years?
We have guys that
this shit, if you're a regular college student, you go through hell trying to get into another university, your transcripts, and you got to do this, you got to have SAT, ACTs, and all this bullshit. None of that goes on with these guys. They go from university to university to university. They don't have the same standards academically that other people go through. Where's that shit? Make this the minor leagues of the NFL. Have the NFL come in and run the shit and have them pour money into this stuff. Because that's all we're doing. Developing talent for the NFL. Period. That's what this shit's about. All right, I feel better.
I don't know why you're so upset about that.
No, I'm not upset. I'm just saying what
talking about running back coaches, Florida has not retained their running back coach.
God, I don't know why not. The guy had a great season.
So... yeah, and I don't know what that does for
because Summerall wants to bring his guys in. Yeah. That this happens in any business. Guys want to bring this guy in. That's just the nature of the fucking world, man.
But and also Billy Gonzalez is not being retained by Florida.
Oh, he's not? I thought he did doing a pretty good job.
And so he's not being retained.
That's the way it is. That's the way it is. He'll go get a good job. He'll get a job.
Jesus Christ. And he retained Ricky Parasol. There's he's had some good development, and he's been a good recruiter. So, I mean, Billy Gonzalez will definitely get another job somewhere. Vernal Brown and Dallas Wilson, both 4-star guys, and you have good upside.
If you have good networks, you get other jobs. Otherwise, it's a little harder.
Thank you for that late breaking news. I appreciate it.
No,
Jesus
I
Christ.
know.
You only hear that here, folks. Is networking helps.
But when Summerall comes in, obviously he's bringing in guys that he wants from Tulane, and then other guys across the country are reaching out to him and say, "Hey, you got any openings?" And
Jabbar came with Billy from Louisiana, so he'll probably maybe go to JMU now. That could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right. I would have a guy on my staff, at least one guy, and he might have a little office of it, grad assistants, whatever, who is what I would call it's not only the scout staff, probably something along that line, who is not afraid to come into the conference when we're doing the game plans and really blow shit up and say, this is how we're going to attack this. This is how we're going to attack this. And from my military days, that's what you had. We called it Op 4, opposing forces. I'd want an office that comes in to destroy the offensive game plan you're about to put together.
Yeah.
That I would want an office who comes in and not afraid to tell the head coach or the OC and just challenge the shit out of them. Because not many people have sat through military type briefings where any military plan that goes down, you have an Op 4 people who come in and try to destroy your plan and say, well, what are you going to do when this happens? What are you going to do when we do this? What are you going to do? And that's how that shit should go down. I don't know if that goes down in football meetings, but it should.
Right. Yep.
Don't be afraid to talk back to the head coach in a respectful manner.
There you go. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Obviously, I think that coach will be interesting. I think he's had some controversy surrounding him around the player and the punch. I'm not going to go into that.
Summerall?
No, Jabbar.
Jabbar.
There is some incident apparently that happened, but I'm not going to go into that. Allegedly, stuff like that. But
there's no reason.
This guy has been able to identify good running backs and get production out of them. Okay. So, he'll find somewhere. Does Florida State want to take a look at him? Maybe. If the controversy is not too bad surrounding what's going on and what happened in the locker room, I don't know. But remember he had Trevor Etienne. He recruited them. He eventually went to Georgia. This guy finds good running back talent, and he gets a lot out of it. So Montrell Johnson, I think this is a guy Florida State may want to take a look at because their running game typically isn't the issue at Florida from what I remember. It's usually things around it, quarterback, sometimes the defense, but quarterback's been an issue for a while.
Yeah, they've had great running backs. They had Emmitt Smith.
Okay, well, I'm talking about recently. I'm talking about with this guy.
I'm sorry, I bring a little history to the program.
Yeah, well, so I think this is a guy definitely Florida State should take a look at seriously because obviously he recruits the state of Florida pretty well and the South. But you got to make sure the controversy is not going to become something bigger, and that's not going to affect you. But,
exactly.
But yeah, so those are some of the big things obviously surrounding Florida State. And the last thing we got to bring up is obviously they turned down the bowl game.
This is it. Yeah,
everyone's been trying to find the final partner for Georgia Southern in a bowl game. Basically every team kind of decided they didn't want to play against Georgia Southern, just didn't want to go to the game. And
they're a pretty good program, I think, or have been.
I mean, the issue being is that you're this late into the season. Even Mike Norvell said, I believe earlier this week or last week, that they were already having exit interviews with players and coaches.
Kids have checked out. Yeah,
that essentially is, you're not going to have an exit interview and then go say, oh, let's go suit up for a bowl game. So guys are checking out. They're deciding if they're going to go to the portal or not. They're getting ready for Christmas break. Like, fine, everything that's going on.
They found out that the Birmingham Bowl is not giving Xboxes in the swag bags.
But yeah, essentially, like, if it drags out this long,
they're giving them Seminole booster cups.
Yeah. But the thing I think we need to keep in mind is that historically, from what people have found, the payout per team for this bowl is around $1.4 million. And would you be making money by going to this game and participating? And that's why I think they found App State, because App State's like, okay, we play in the Sun Belt, $1.4 million for us. Yeah. That can go a long way in terms of NIL, recruiting, whatever it may be. That payout may be a little bit smaller because it's a smaller team going to it. That could affect the payout in terms of sponsorships that go into, come for the game, stuff like that. But I think for $1.4 million, if Florida State really is in the financial position, I hope they weighed the pros and cons of that and then just didn't say, well, screw it, we're not going to go. I mean, you could put a bunch of practice squad guys and just take the paycheck. At this point, you're 5-7. Or unless you're saying we can't compete and we can't take the brand loss to Georgia Southern, like that's worse than risking it for 1. That's not worth risking $1.4 million for. I think there's some of that probably too. It's like, if we can't get our stars to play, and we can't risk the brand losing to Georgia Southern. Like, I think that's some of it. So now you get Appalachian State, who I believe is 5-7. They were one of, I think, 10 teams in front of them or something decided to opt out and not play this. Some of those teams from the SEC, I believe, one or two of them got a fine for it. Got fined for not accepting it.
$500,000.
Yeah.
I saw.
So
Jesus.
I think eventually this is the beginning. I think you saw a little bit of this last year. A couple of teams opting out, but I think this is the start of you're going to see some of these shit bowls go away. And
because it's a financial business decision, which you pointed out.
Yeah, and so I think you're going to see a lot of these shit bowls go away, or it's going to be no record. There's going to be no record requirement. It's just going to be G5. This is going to be the G5 playoffs essentially, and maybe that's what eventually it'll turn into. The college football playoff is going to be just for two conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC.
Big boy football.
And then these bowls will eventually now turn into the G5. Or the rest of the best of the rest playoff, the NIT essentially of college football.
Notre Dame might be able to get to one of those and win the best of the rest.
And they'll host those aside, as the NIT of the tournament, versus the main tournament.
Right.
So, I think it's, but yeah,
Let me ask you.
Do you think Florida State should have taken it?
I said that. I think I said that earlier in an X or on one of our programs, and I'll take accountability. I thought they'd probably take it. I didn't really think through all the shit you just talked about and brought up, which it makes some sense. I think they've been beat up so much this season that they just want to shut the doors, close the lockers, and start all over. And why have to go through 1 week more of practice? I don't think it's in the players at this point. I don't know what the freaking contracts say. Do the contracts say you must play in a bowl game? Who knows anymore? But, on the flip side, I was thinking more this could be a young player development type game because I said, remember how I would say the Pop-Tarts Bowl? There actually is a Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah, there is.
That actually freaking exists.
Yeah, Miami went to it last year.
Yeah, I know. I think Georgia Tech's in it this year or some shit. It's in Camping World in Orlando. But I said this would be a developmental because you'd get extra weeks of practice and then you could start. Could you start a guy like Speary? And have him play the damn game.
It would count towards eligibility. And I think that's another reason why they don't want to play because...
Yeah, but he had one more game to give, I believe. I think he had one... let's say it doesn't matter. Let's say he did. You could start him or you could start that kid from East Tennessee State.
But once again,
it's an evaluation period.
You talk about injuries during garbage time. This is essentially 60
Well,
minutes
these
of
are kids
time.
that don't play. These aren't your stars.
But these are still garbage time.
You're right. It is garbage time. I've always said that. I said... Who was the guy said for players to opt out against Georgia? We should have opted.
Yeah,
this brings me to the point.
Yeah.
Just like Notre Dame opted out now, we should have opted out. I called for that. You can go back. We have the receipts on our thing. I called for that heavily on X. I called for it on this program. That we should have opted out against Georgia.
And at that time, sentiment was if
Florida
State opts out, then they're babies and
they're babies. Well,
but now it's popular.
Notre Dame. Yeah, now it's popular.
Yeah.
Now it's popular because it started with the players who said this is bullshit. Why would Jared Verse go play against Georgia? He had nothing else to prove, and he could have blown out a knee. Yeah. It makes no sense. No, he didn't play. None of those guys played.
I think Braden Fisk was maybe the only one that played. I think.
Yeah, which is high risk. It was stupid. If I was his parent, I was down notch.
He knew he was kind of, upper rounds, lower rounds, and I think he wanted to. He's a competitor though, and it worked out for him. He got drafted.
I think he had a business-related decision.
Yeah.
You would only play in such garbage games these are outside of playoffs if you have something to build your business or your name or your brand on, period. There's no other reason. It's too freaking risky. But I said, if you're going to go to one of these garbage bowls, then you would do it with just your young talent who are willing to go, and you'd have to have enough roster to go play.
Yeah,
That's it. But I agree. I don't have a problem with them opting out.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem at all.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I the only reason is I think you need the money, but like you said, I think it's too much of a brand risk that you absolutely could lose to Georgia Southern with a depleted roster and how you played, and I don't think it's worth that either.
And before we wrap up,
last thing,
before I just want to say this on that, I heard some guys talking, In fact, it was Stephen A. Smith, who I kind of like. A lot of people, he's very controversial, but he makes very definitive statements. He's not waffling. Well, this could happen or that could happen, like some people in the media. This could happen, that could happen. You know what he said? He said Notre Dame's brand name, which it used to really hold, is not quite the same as it used to be. And I think he has some point there. It's still a very strong brand name, but I think you could see Notre Dame maybe looking to get into one of these two conferences, not the ACC, to get into one of the two. Those are the mega leagues that we've talked about. I could see that happening. Number one. Number two, I said this a couple shows ago, or maybe last show, FSU must protect their brand moving forward. Brands do not last eternally if you just keep shitting in your pants, okay? It doesn't work that way. You know that. You know that way from a business world. Brands, look at the Cracker Barrel. The CEO said one thing, we're going to change the name. People went crazy, and the brand took a hit. You can't keep losing and getting your ass beat and expect your brand to keep selling. We've got to keep selling it till we get into one of those mega conferences, or we're going to be in big freaking trouble. And there's only going to be so many slots available.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to put up here real quick was someone posted, and this is another kind of scoring, but was the ACC's pass or blocking grades for the year. And Florida State had a top 3, top 2 overall offensive line grade, right behind Miami, which is interesting. If you look at, and this is for PFSN, which is kind of another one of these analytics sites. But if you look at PFF too, same kind of deal. If you look at our pass blocking overall for the regular season, second in the country, or second in the ACC, I should say. And then for run blocking, fourth.
We put up a lot of numbers. We put up good offensive statistics. You can't blame Gus for that. You can blame him and Norvell for not getting into the end zone enough.
Well, that's where I commented, and I said, basically, this is great to be second, and it reflects that, you weren't able to execute. How many times could we not get 4th and 1, 4th and 2 behind the offensive line, just running the football? How many times in the red zone could we not run behind our line?
Exactly.
And you had to give it to a tight end to be like, you just couldn't get behind your blockers and get the extra yard, get the 3rd and 1, get the 3rd and 2, get the 4th.
Hey, breaking news! Florida State women's soccer has won the national championship.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
1-0, beat Stanford on a late goal. My God, he got another one. That's freaking awesome. That's some damn good news, man. That is awesome.
And that's where we should be looking. How
and again,
building that
Florida State women's national champions again. There it is. 1-0 over Stanford, late second half goal. My God. Get the bag out for these women. Get the bag out for the coach. Get the bag out for the facilities. Alford was there. I'm kind of, not a big deal, but at least he has a little happiness.
Well,
but way to go, ladies.
Remember when the last coach retired, there was concerns, would they be able to sustain this? And would they be able to continue to build on the success?
How do you protect your coach? How do you keep this guy? Okay, you got to pay him.
He's at the why would he move? As long as he's getting paid. He's got it all. He's got the players. He's got the reputation. You've got sustained success. Oh God, please don't play the stupid clips. But no,
I love that.
Once again, as long as you're getting compensated, and the FSU soccer is one of the biggest brands in the world for soccer. So no, great job by the entire team.
Way to go, ladies!
And this is so somehow they've been able to figure out the model. We got to get the other programs to figure out the model of how to sustain success and build success. But
this guy is one hell of a recruiter. He goes all over the freaking world looking for players. Okay, and he goes to the portal. We need to sit him down and say, how do you evaluate talent? I'm just so happy, so happy.
No, that's well deserved by them. And once again, just they built a culture of success, and it's great. It's great to watch. So yeah, congrats to the ladies, and Add it to your Christmas list, the FSU soccer champion, right in time for Christmas.
There you go. T-shirts. Wow.
So that's
Good
awesome.
For them,
that's
man.
awesome.
That is awesome. So I don't even know what the hell we were talking about.
No, I think we were talking about offensive line, but we can go ahead and wrap that up. I'll finish it off with this post because I thought it was.
I told you it'd be under 2 hours. Yeah. It's an hour and a half.
This is a good final post to kind of wrap up college football. Bowl games dying, conference championships dying, college football disaster, playoff disaster, transfer portal disaster, NIL out of control, Heisman Trophy irrelevant. I
and Notre Dame gets a automatic berth.
ESPN making millions. That sums up what college football is right now.
Exactly
everything
what it
is a disaster except ESPN is making millions off the back of everything else. It's absolutely a mess right now, and all these things are terrible. So I think that's a great way to end this up. But obviously playoffs start here in a couple of weeks.
And we'll have a prediction show, right? Yep.
Yeah, I could kind of care less, but I just
no, it's fun.
It's not. I don't want to watch these same teams who played each other. It's kind of boring.
Could be upsets. Do you see any upsets?
That's the only reason.
Do you see any upsets right now?
I don't see any.
No, in the first round.
Not really.
Do you think it hurts to sit out? You get a first round bye. Where do you stand on stuff like that? Because they will be out. Remember one team? Remember that last year? They didn't play football for like 5 weeks because they get like 2 weeks to get ready, right? No. The first round is next weekend, right?
First round is December 19th.
Okay, so that's like 2 weeks.
So Ohio State and Texas Tech, Indiana and Georgia won't play until the weekend. Won't play until December 31st. That's their first game. So Ohio State plays Texas Tech. Yeah, they don't play until 31st, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. They don't play their first game. They have 22 days off. They have 3 weeks off.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But it's also rehab too. They get their bodies healthy. They get their game plans in line, and they also can figure out who they're going to be playing. So they basically get a break from the 20th to the 31st to figure out, okay, who's ahead of us? Who do we need a game plan for? So there is an advantage. There's no you got cold. You stay prepared, and you have an advantage to game plan and get your bodies in line because these other teams are beating each other up until
Let's end the show with this thought. And you don't have to answer. I'm just asking the fans. Should you make your entire team get a flu shot?
What the Okay, I'm done. All right. Have a great night.
Hey, wait a minute. That came up one natty when Florida State was playing. That Chris Wakey was well under the weather, So you don't want your team to get. I don't know what the hell they would do, right? It would end up like Georgia, Florida State again. Oh my God.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about. We'll keep you posted on breaking news. Obviously, I expect there to be some more coaching changes coming up for Florida State. Transfer portal is going to pop off here in a couple of weeks. We'll have people announcing who's going in and going out. We'll also talk about who'll be on Florida State's radar. I already have some bookmarked people that we can talk about next show. So we'll keep you posted there. Stay with us. Hit the like button, subscribe, and please follow along with us. So thank you guys again, and congratulations again, ladies.
And don't give up on Luke Laux. They're coming back. They lost 2 games by 30 plus, and they only lost to Houston by 15. I'll have more reports coming on that. Maybe KB will join me.
Yeah. All right. As always, go Noles, and congratulations, FSU soccer. Way to go.
Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Every